Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lee Stafford Education Live Masterclass. My name's Mike Saunders, all the way from sunny Denmark. Obviously, I'm not Lee Stafford. You can probably tell because of the lack of hair. I'm one of the staffs at Lee Stafford Education, and basically what I do is I go round to the colleges and I share Lee Stafford Education with your tutors, and they do an absolutely fabulous job of then going back to the colleges and sharing it with you, so we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. But that's enough about me, because I'm going to hand you over to somebody who is extremely talented, all the way from the south of England, Mr. Liam Fry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is, Mike rightfully just said there, my name is Liam Fry. I am the owner and director of Tony Wood Hairdressing here down on the south coast of Portsmouth. I'm very, very proud to stand here today in front of each and every one of you to say I'm here to do a fantastic haircut. Really, really excited to share it with each and every one of you. It's going to be a lovely little twist on the uniform layer, and we're going to be sharing it with you today.
We've got a few little hellos coming in from Chichester. We've got a hello for Amber, hello from Laura, hello from Ellie. Bon says hello, hello Bon, and Tracy from Chichester College as well.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike. My assistant's causing a bit of hassle down here. Oh. He's sweeping up the floor, guys. He's helping out today, so I've got to look after him at home. So this is little Link. If he makes some noise, I do apologise. But I've got to keep an eye on him today. All right.
How old is he, Liam?
He's a year old now. He's a year old, and he's lovely. He's a good boy. He's a really good boy.
So what are you going to be doing then?
I've got a great cut here today for you, Mike. I've got a lovely little twist on the uniform layer. Now, a uniform layer for me is probably one of the most technical haircuts within the Lee Stafford MVQ Level 2 hairdressing. Reason being, short haircuts, and I get this a lot from my team back down on the south coast here at Tony Wood Hairdressing, that short haircuts for them are really quite difficult. They love working with the long hair. They love doing all the lovely beachy waves of very Pinterest-worthy hair. But what we got here is we've got a really great, up-to-date, very fashionable uniform layer that I'm going to share with each and every one of you. Now, this haircut here is 90% of the Lee Stafford Education uniform layer recipe. However, I've got a little twist, and I'm going to share that with you now. So I just want to share with you very, very quickly the sectioning pattern that we've done today. So we started off with a center parting from the front of the head all the way through, and we went all the way down to the back of the head here. Okay, and once we've done the center parting, we've split the hair into nice and even either side. We then popped in 4 new little sections, one from the temple down to the back of the ear, another one that goes around from the back of the ear down to the nape of the neck, so right towards your center back, and then from your center back and mirroring it on the other side, we got there to the back of the ear, and then back up towards the temporal, up to here. Okay.
And like coming down to a V shape at the back, Liam.
Essentially, yeah. And there's a very good reason for that, and I'll share that with you later. Because there's some things that happen with the uniform layer that I find by putting them down towards the nape of the neck and using these sections that I've done, they're going to sit nicely and out of the way without causing any problems with the rest of the haircut. So I'm going to touch on that later. But if I don't, please remind me, guys, in the comments, make sure you do send any questions that you might have, anything you're unsure of. I'm here to answer any questions. It doesn't even have to be about the haircut. It can be about the dog if you want to. So by all means, share any questions that you may have in the comments down below. So with this haircut so far today, what I've done is I've done the classic uniform layer all the way around the sides here, bringing them all out to the same length, bringing the hair out from the head, directly from the head. Now I've done this from one side and round to the other. For the sake of time, I'll put this all in very quickly for you because I'm going to cut the top section for you because the method remains the same. We're going to be extending the hair out from the head and cutting the same length all over. Okay. Lovely. How are we looking? Nice and clear? How's things in Denmark, Mike? Good?
Yeah, good. Very cold today, though. But I hear you've got some lovely, lovely weather down on the south coast today, haven't you?
It's not too bad. It's bluebird skies today, mate. It's
Yeah,
really nice.
beautiful.
Really nice. Not quite warm summer weather yet. I'm looking forward to the summer. Okay, so I'm going to go find my high point of the head here. I've got this hot cross bun section that I've got on the top of the head. And right bang in the middle, this is where I found my high point here of the head. Now, this is where I'm going to put my guide in, and I'm going to choose how short this hair goes to. Now, I could have it this long. I could only take the very ends off if I wanted to, or I can take it down to cropping it right close to the scalp. But for today, because I want a little bit of movement, a little bit of texture in the hair, I'm going to be bringing it around about 3 inches or so away from the head. So that's going to be the length that I'm going to be choosing. So I'm going to be popping that in there for a second. So I'm just going to unpin 2 sections at the back, lift this point up here. This is my high point. So I'm going to choose my length. Take that top section off for you. So I've got a real clear guide on the top of my head of the shortest point. Not going to go any shorter than this on the top of the head. Okay. Now I'm going to take it and bring the head to the side here so you can see it from a side profile. I'm going to take my slither section down to my previous cut section just underneath here. Okay. So I'm going to take the center back section all the way down. To the previous cut section that we've done. And what we're going to see in a moment when I lift this hair out is my previous guide. Now this previous guide is really, really important because that's my starting point. So as you can see, my body position is on the side of the head here. I'm not working from the back. I'm going to be looking directly at the section I'm going to be cutting. I'll be able to see all the hair, the direction of the hair coming out from the head. So I'm going to be really clear and concise at exactly what we're doing with this cut. So the guide slither section that we got here is going to be our guide through into the top. So I'm lifting the hair up here. You can see very clearly, this is my previous cut section. So I'm going to use that as my guide, and then I'm going to connect it up to the top section that I've just put in. So I'm directing the hair out from the head. I can see it's directly coming away from the head shape. So we're extending the shape of the head. And we're taking that off. Okay. And then we're going to work up to the high point that I've just created. And again, the hair's not being directed backwards. It's not being directed forwards, sideways towards me. I'm going straight up, out from the head. And I can see all the grains of the hair are coming directly away from the head. I'm going to cut that section in. It requires a lot of discipline when you're doing the uniform layer, because as soon as you start relaxing and your hand starts to drop, you end up noticing that you can end up create a totally different shape. So a lot of discipline comes into it. Lovely. So I've got my guide section now. This again is the uniform layer. So if I lift this out from the head, we'll be able to see really clearly that we're just extending the shape of the head. Okay. So we're continuing that round this set, using this back quadrant and continuing round the head here.
Good. We can see, even though you're working on a very small part of the head there, Liam,
Mm-hmm.
you can see how much care and time and precision you put into that area.
Absolutely.
We just had and that's obviously due to like your body position, your finger position, your finger angle.
Sure, yeah.
Had a question come in from Laura, which says, what is your worst experience with uniform layer? So probably rewording that slightly, I would say, what challenges could we have while doing the uniform layer?
So what challenges we have, Mike just mentioned it a moment ago, is when you're working on a uniform layer, you're working with lots of different angles. You're moving your body to extreme positions sometimes. Sometimes you can be bent all the way over. Now, having the correct body position within this recipe, you minimize the amount of yoga that you're doing within recipe, and you're not going to be damaging your back. I think one of the biggest challenges I find is your finger position, your body position, because I get all fingers and thumbs. I'm not sure where I'm meant to be. So I remember really, really vividly when I first started hairdressing, I was doing a uniform layer, and I just didn't know which way to approach it. One minute I was from the back, and then from the side, and then I was going back over a section. But with the Lee Stafford recipe, and this is why the recipes are so powerful, and this is why I really would employ anybody who does a Lee Stafford recipe, make sure that we are following that recipe. Make sure that we are following it to the T. And the reason for that is that once you understand it, and you understand what happens when you elevate the hair up from the head, and you're in full control of what you're doing, you can then go off piste, you can try different sectioning patterns and have a bit of fun with the recipe. But the key is to revise, learn, and practice that recipe. And get mistakes, because mistakes are fine, but practice, and get it perfect. And then you're going to be able to go wild with your uniform layers. However, let me share with you, Mike, if you don't mind me sharing with you, my worst experience, because I can see the question there as well. This goes back years ago. I was working in an old salon that I used to work for, and it was crazy, really. I did this. I got thrown in the deep end, essentially, and they said, "You've got to go cut this haircut." And I was like, "I don't know how to do it." So I just went into it and I started cutting. And it was a short cropped hairstyle, but it was meant to be very soft and still very feminine. But I started cutting away, and the client that I was looking after, so this is my worst experience, and it was awful. She told me to stop cutting her hair. And she asked me to find a more experienced stylist to finish it off. Now that stuck with me throughout my whole career, but we've got to make these mistakes and learn from these mistakes to get yourself better. Because it doesn't matter if I'm stood in front of you guys at home watching this on your phone, we all start somewhere, okay? I've had to learn these recipes, so I'm ready to present it in front of you guys today. So we've got to start somewhere. We've got to make mistakes. And I learned from that mistake. I never cut her hair again.
100%, Liam.
Lovely. So I'm going to continue round and carry on cutting here. Have we got any other questions at all, guys? Because this is a really good time to just ask anything that might be on your mind, something that you might not be able to ask your employer.
We've just got another question coming in that sort of goes into, because I think the worst thing that can happen with uniform layer is it ends up not being a uniform layer, it ends up being something else, and that might be longer or shorter. Yeah. And I think one of the challenges with uniform layer is getting the whole thing to be uniform. Mm-hmm. You know, it sounds really easy, doesn't it? 3 inches over uniform layer. Yeah. But it's actually extremely difficult to do. So the next question comes in from Bon, which is, Liam, is there any benefit to making the first guideline, for the high point of the head?
Is there any benefit? No, for me personally, and again, this is me breaking the rules, is that I just wanted as a little representation for the guys to show you how short we're going to go on top before we start cutting away, just so to give you an idea of where we're going to. However, with majority of Lee Stafford education haircuts, when you're cutting in layers, you start from short and you go to long. But the great thing about this haircut here is that it's all the same length. So we know exactly how long it should be all the way around, all the same, the hair should be exactly the same length. Lovely. So how often are you over from Denmark? Knocking the thing here. How often are you over from Denmark, Mike?
Probably about once a month at the moment. Okay. Now the dreaded C word has been lifted a little bit.
Oh, good stuff.
The word that we don't like to hear in the salons anymore, really. I bet you're bored of it, aren't you, hearing about the...
We hear about it all the time, but you know what's really nice is that I'm cutting a head of hair. It might not be a real head of hair, but I'm cutting a head of hair without a mask on at the moment, which is really nice. Yeah.
Got a couple more questions coming in here. One's from Amelia, and it says, "What's the key to a good uniform layer?"
Ooh, that's a very good question. Now, key to a uniform layer. Ultimately, we are looking for all the hair on the head to be the same length all the way around. Okay, we're not looking to create any sort of We're not looking for it to get longer towards the front. We're not looking to get it shorter towards the back. We're looking to keep it uniform. So it's, like I said before, we're extending the shape of the head. So a lot of factors come into it. I think the biggest thing you want to be focusing on, I guess, it would be your body position and your finger position. That would be my key things. As soon as you start deviating away from the recipe and you start trying something slightly different, you inevitably, because if you think about it, let me show you very quickly. So if I was to lift the hair up now, and then I wanted to try something different, and all of a sudden I'm just changing my finger angle, I'm then not following the shape of the head. Unconsciously, I could be going a little bit off-piste with the haircut. But the goal today is to create that uniform layer. And I think for me, is your finger position, your body position is absolutely key. Any other questions at all, guys?
Yeah, we've got some coming in, a little bit of business for you, Liam, now.
Go for it.
I've got 2 questions about the salons. One from Ellie, and it says, let's get that up. What's the best way to run loads of salons?
Oh, I wish I could answer that one. I own one salon.
That's the one we all want, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Mike. I mean, that's a good point there. Is it what everybody wants? For me personally, I'll share with you guys a little bit of insight on what it's like at Tony Wood Hairdressing. We've got a beautiful building down on the south coast. It's a Victorian, it's a mock Tudor, clock tower, and it's stunning. If you ever guys want to check it out, just check us out at Tony Wood Hair on our Instagram. It's all on there. And I've got a salon with about 20 employees. So for me, I could have 5 salons with less people in it, or could have one big vibrant salon with 20 people working there. For me, I've got a great creative environment. Everybody bounces off one another. So for me personally, it's not necessarily to have lots and lots of salons, because that means I have to be lots and lots of places. It's to have a really successful individual salon, which everybody inside is thriving and learning and growing individually.
That's such a great answer, isn't it, Liam? Because I think, going around and looking at salons, what they're like on a Saturday or a Friday, some of the small businesses don't actually have that many clients in, do they? Or they don't appear to be that busy. So it's like, why would you want 3 salons like that when you can control one probably a little bit better?
Yeah.
Everybody's different though, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, what's the best way? Crikey, there's 1,000,001 ways to do it. You've got the franchisee. God, we can go into all sorts of business here. But for me personally, it's not necessarily about what I have and what I own. I'm going to get really sort of soppy here, Mike. It's about the people that I employ. It's about how they're grown as an individual. I spent a lot of my career with sort of blinkers on. I never really got opportunities that I would really like to have done. And it wasn't until I left one of my first salons I was in, I had that opportunity to grow and develop myself. And I think if I can give that opportunity back to my staff sooner, rather than 11 years down the line of doing hairdressing, then I know I'm in a good place and they're learning and they're growing themselves. Because that's what it's all about. That's why we do what we do. For some people, they love standing behind the chair and working every day, looking after their clients day in and day out. For other people, for example, like me, I like to be able to get out, be in front of you guys, not just be stuck in the salon all the time. So I like to keep my work quite variable.
Nice. And what did it feel like for you when you opened your first salon, Liam?
Well, to give you a bit of insight, guys, I was very, very lucky. I worked with a guy called Tony Wood. Some of you guys may know him in the colleges. He is also a staff. Now, Tony gave me I was very lucky. He gave me an opportunity. He gave me an opportunity to help become his manager of Tony Wood Hairdressing at the time. And he was very lucky. After a couple of years of working with Tony, he gave me the opportunity of buying his business off of him. So in October of 2019, I've been working with Tony for 6 years. I'd finally taken over, 7 years, forgive me. I'd taken over Tony Wood Hairdressing. So it was a great experience to learn from someone who had all that experience, soak it all up, and then carry the torch, I guess, and carry it on forward for him. Lovely.
got a great question coming in now, Liam.
Oh,
I'll probably answer that one first, and then you can go in with that as well. And it says, how do you feel about using the Lee Stafford uniform layer recipe for the first time? So, how did you feel about using the Lee? It's a great question, because when there's hundreds of ways that you could cut a uniform layer, or there's hundreds of ways that you could cut a graduated bob. But sort of somewhere along the line, Lee, with his wealth of experience, has had to choose a way, and probably the best way for a level 2, level 3 learner to learn, and that would be whether it's a uniform layer or a graduated bob. So when we first learnt the recipes, or when Lee first showed me the uniform layer, that wasn't the way that I used to cut a uniform layer. I used to do it quite different. So to sort of follow Lee's way was quite challenging for the first time, to get your body in the same position that Lee was getting it in, or your fingers in the same position from Lee was getting his fingers in, was extremely challenging. And it didn't always go well to start with. A staff doing Lee's uniform layer for the first time might make the odd mistake, but we tend to sort of get on the railway track quite quickly. So for me, it was like, it's another way of learning how to do a uniform layer. And the special thing with Lee's uniform layer is you've got many, many guidelines to go from. You've got that horseshoe shape, and then you've got the guide that he's cutting it from. So you're almost like doing dot to dot hair cutting. And for me, for a level 2, level 3 learner, that made that so much easier for me. How was that for you, Liam?
I'm a bit about the same as you. So I was doing hairdressing for about 13 years before I was able to come and start working alongside you guys at Lee Stafford Education. And I had to completely retrain myself. So I think this is no different really from any of the other recipes. You've got to start somewhere. And it felt like I was starting all over again, because I had my way, and my way wasn't wrong. But if I was to stand in front of you and try and describe what I did before, I'd get a bit lost within it all, because it'd be by feel. It'd be by, oh, you lift it this way because it just goes that way. But I think when I learned to do the uniform layer or any other recipe within Lee Stafford Education, I found there was a direction for me. I think with all uniform layers in the past, I used to sort of meander my way to the end result. So I may cut a section, go through the haircut, then go back a bit, go over that section one more time, then work my way towards the front, or maybe go back a bit more and correct that. So I found my work sped up. I had a little bit more, I was a lot more precise, and I understood what I was doing. So I think that was really, for me, having to start all over again gave me a little bit more guidance and a bit more understanding of what I was actually doing day in, day out. And I remember I've been doing hairdressing for 13 years by that point. I thought I knew everything. But, you open your eyes and you have a look, and you're willing to learn and make mistakes. And you do, and you start figuring it out.
I think that's the key, isn't it, Liam? Is it's okay to make mistakes?
Sure.
It's something that we say a lot, but it's actually, I remember Annie Humphreys, one of the top UK colorists, actually found a lot of her colour recipes from making mistakes and seeing what result she got, and quite liked it, and then she found out how to get that result. So mistakes can actually be good to learn, can't they?
Something that I share a lot with my younger employees, my apprentices of the salon, and I want to share it with everyone who's watching today. You'll go onto Instagram these days, and you'll go onto YouTube, and you'll see all these phenomenal, incredibly precise, incredibly beautiful haircuts, and they've done them stunning. But I want to remind each and every one of you, you've got to start from somewhere. And the people that are stood in front, they haven't all of a sudden become brilliant. You don't have to be, when you walk out in the salon floor, incredible with what you're doing. What I would encourage for you guys is to keep practicing and learning the recipes. But at the same time, If you don't mind me sharing with you, Mike, I've got a client that's been with me since I was 16 years old. And I'd like to think I do a better haircut now than I did 20 years ago when I first started hairdressing. However, the question would be is, why did she stay with me back then? It wasn't because I was the best cutter. It's because I gave her my time. I gave her my energy. I gave her my guidance, my experience at the time. And she stayed with me. And I grew with her, and I've known all about her family ever since then, creating the great relationships that you do with your clients. But just remember, when you finish your MVQ, or if you're working in a salon, and you see all these great hairdressers around you, whether it's on your phone or in the salon with you, you'll get there one day. But do not think that you've got to be up here, because you've got to start here. And it's your personal side, your personal skills. It's who you are as an individual that will keep your clients coming back time and time again. So the haircut's important, but you as an individual is also incredibly important too.
Great advice.
All right, so let's focus and get onto the top section here. So I'm on the front two quadrants of the hair now. So I've cut the uniform layer all the way around. Okay, so we kept that shape, really beautiful little shape at the back there. And we've got this long section that we haven't cut yet at the front. So I'm going to continue with my guide at the back that I've just cut in these last two sections here. I'm going to use a guide from the back to continue the uniform layer forward to the front of the head. So from the center parting, I'm going to take my slither section. And as we go onto the top of the head's not flat. So if we have a little look here, even with the silhouette, we can see that I wouldn't just lift this straight up and cut it. We can see the shape of the head changes as we go towards the front, which means the hair coming out from the head doesn't go straight up towards the ceiling. It comes out from the head. So you'll see my finger angle and coming out from the hair will also change as I work towards the front here. So let me just lift this section up here and show you very clearly what I'm doing. So I've got my guide at the back there. I can see this really clearly. So I know where I'm cutting, and I'm going to lift the hair up. All the grains of the hair are coming directly up towards the ceiling, and then they come, as I go towards the front of the head here, they slightly curve around. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, we have one coming in now, which is, have you ever traveled abroad with your hairdressing, Liam?
I've been very, very lucky over the years to be able to travel. One of my favorite places was with Tony Wood himself. We had the opportunity to spend 7 days in India, which was incredible. We were working with Dyson, and we were out in India promoting the Dyson hairdryer. And it was one of the most incredible times I ever had. India was never on my list to go and visit. It just never was. So I was never really keen to go there, but I miss the place. Liam is amazing. Thanks. See that scrolling on the bottom. But yeah, India. Where else have I been? Crikey. Dubrovnik, we've been to Lithuania, and to be honest with you guys, this is all when I was working with Tony at Tony Wood Hairdressing as his manager. Since then, since I've taken over the salon, we've been in lockdown, so we haven't been able to travel as much. However, this year, fingers crossed, we can get abroad. I think we've got Portugal hopefully in May, so that'd be really good. And that's the beautiful thing about the industry, guys. Hair translates all over the world. You can go anywhere with it. And that's the great thing about it. So don't think that you've got to work in your local area. Get yourself out there, see what else is about.
Have scissors will travel, Liam.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to carry this on here. I'm going to carry on the uniform layer. So I've taken so let me just show you very quickly. So we get chatting away, and I get a little bit passionate about the younger generation coming through, Mike, and just sort of encouraging them to push themselves as far as they can, because it's such a great industry. It really is. So we've got our uniform layer here. We can see this section that I've got at the top here. So I'm just trying to make it clear. We've got a nice uniform layer, and it curves as we go towards the front there. it curves around towards the front as well. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is using this as our guide, and we're going to step to the back of the head, step around. I'm going to work on one side first and connect the middle to the side, and then I'm going to work on the other side and connect the middle to the side. Have you travelled at all, Mike? Where have you gone for your work?
Oh God, yeah, I've travelled many places. Yeah, it's trying to keep up with it. The problem is, most of my travelling has been through education to educate, and normally you just go in and do a gig for a day or 2 days. So there's not actually much time to spend where you're travelling to. So once you're in a hotel, it's almost like you're in a hotel and that's all you see. But I have tried to always tag on another day and pop out and see what's going on. But yeah, travel to Switzerland, Sweden, Norway, obviously in Denmark at the moment. Yeah, it's been, hairdressing is just so many different avenues that you can go out and work. It's unbelievable. I mean, rumor has it you went to, have you been to India, have you, Liam? Or
yeah, I just mentioned them, buddy. Yeah,
and was it Thailand as well, or?
I have cut hair in Thailand. I was traveling in Thailand at the time.
Yeah,
I traded my hair cutting skills for beers in the evening, so that was I'm not recommending it, but yeah, that's how we.
At the same time,
I paid for my night out. I've got some pictures somewhere on the internet, so there'll be somewhere. But that was good fun. Yeah, like I said, hair travels all over the world. I think we were cutting hair, and we were on the side of a street. We found someone left a chair. It was a makeshift chair, like a couple of boxes. I sat her down, and she said her hair was getting really long, and I was like, "Yeah, sit down. I've got my scissors. I'll cut your hair for you." So yeah, we cut hair on the side street in the middle of Thailand. So that was awesome.
So what's the going rate for beers and a Thai haircut then?
I think a beer was about 80p. It was a very cheap haircut. Lovely. So I'm again still keeping my discipline and making sure the hair comes out from the head. I'm following the shape of the head around to the sides. As you can see, I'll come through to the sides, and I've got my guide at the bottom here. And I'm just connecting the dots together from the top to the sides. Lovely.
You've got a lot going on there, haven't you, Liam? You're lifting the hair up, your body position, Absolutely. You're following the head shape. You know, it's not like a one length below, is it, where you're behind and pulling everything down without elevation? You know, it's quite a tricky one to master, this one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And this is why I get this a lot from my younger team members, because a lot of the stuff they do in the salon is longer hair. And I don't know if it's the same as our viewers watching at the moment. Do you spend more time on long hair or short hair? Let us know, because I think the trends at the moment are sort of your long bobs and your wavy long bobs, not many short cropped hairstyles or short uniform layers, to that matter, come in at the moment. So it could very easily be forgotten about, especially when you're learning in salon. If you've got guys who work in the salon during the week as apprentices and then come into the colleges, but we don't get as much as we do with the long hair at the moment. So practicing something like this, and as we all know, and I've seen it in our industry over the years, trends come back around. They don't go away. So learning this art is going to really get you ahead before that trend changes and everybody wants short hair again, because it will come back around.
That leads us quite nicely on to the next question, Liam, which is Bon, which is Mike, the cutting master. It is very good to see you. What do you think about Danish hairdressing? Now, obviously, I'm not Danish. I had a hairdressing salon on the south coast for 25 years called Yellow Strawberry, which is just along from you Chichester guys there. And I sold my business and moved to Denmark probably 6-7 years ago. But the main difference, I think, over here is the fact that women where they're not all of them, but a lot of the women are not like the youngsters, more sort of middle-aged and slightly older. They're really into short hair, but they have like, it's really quite aggressive. That it hasn't necessarily got that softness about it. They have a lot of undercuts. There's a lot of shaved hair going on, quite hard, quite aggressive, but they seem to soften it up with really quite flamboyant and stylish glasses, and it seems to work. You know, I walk down the street and I sort of think, oh, that's the bit that catches your eye first of all because it's quite strong, and then you look at it and go, yeah, it sort of works but doesn't work. It's almost got that edginess to it. But then again, you know, you've got obviously Denmark's quite a big place, and I suppose it depends where you are, whether you're in Copenhagen, which would be more like a London salon, or when I was in the UK, I had the business on Hailing Island. So obviously on Hailing Island, it was more about building haircuts for people's lifestyles. So a lot of my clients on Hailing Island, they were walking the dog at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning along the beach. So their hair's getting blown around a lot. So they need a haircut to suit that. Or they're taking the kids off for the school run. They don't want to spend an hour doing their hair in the morning. They only want to blast it off. So they got 15 minutes. So you have to build a hairstyle to suit their lifestyle. So I hope that answers that for you, Bon. And hopefully we'll be back down the south of England soon and popping in saying hello.
Yeah, I've missed that, haven't you, Mike? We've been really lucky to travel all over the country and see your trainers, the guys who are watching, and the educators, and how much passion they've got and drive, and just so willing to learn a new way of cutting hair, because they've also had to start somewhere as well. They've had to learn all the recipes before you great students arrived. So they put that time and energy and effort into it too. So it's, for me, I love getting into the colleges. I love seeing everybody around the country, up in Newcastle, whether it's close to home, Chichester, you've got, you know, all over the place. So I've been really lucky over the years to travel and meet lots of people. So fingers crossed this year we'll be doing it again.
Definitely.
Lovely. So we're just working through this haircut. I'm almost done with the uniform layer now, Mike.
Lovely.
So we're just, again, connecting the top and the sides together whilst we're chatting away there, extending the hair out from the head, keeping that discipline, making sure that we're not relaxing our finger angle off or over directing in any place. We're just bringing the hair straight out from the head and just working my way towards the front now. And then once I've finished this part of the haircut and the uniform layer technically is complete, we're going to start doing a little bit of razoring. We're going to start personalizing it and having a bit of fun with it, because we've got the bulk of the shape. We've just got to make it our own after that. And that's where the fun part comes in. That's when you put your own little twist onto things, you know?
Another question just come in, Liam. It's what's the most challenging situation as a salon manager? And was it with a client or staff or both?
How honest do we want to be?
One realistically.
I'll be really honest. I'm going to share it with you guys, if you don't mind, Mike. I've been dealing with something myself. I had a client that wasn't very happy. And as a manager, you can't just sweep it under a rug and forget about it. You've got to deal with it. And I had to essentially, she was a client with very, very long hair. She had a beautiful result on it, and she just wasn't happy with it. So I had to try and manage the whole situation and try and kill it with love. But ultimately, the hardest situation is having to give their money back to them. And it was a tough decision to make, because the hair itself was stunning. It was a great result, and it was technically what she was after. And yeah, we had to deal with that. So that was the most recent one. But there's been lots of challenges in my career. You know, whether dealing with, you know, the awful C word, COVID, right? that's been incredibly challenging. I can imagine it's been challenging for all the students as well. To be having to learn from home, to have to be watching, it's not the same as getting hands-on sometimes. So there is lots of challenges there, and the teachers having to teach that way. When we got locked down, that was incredibly challenging because we were trying to run a business from my bedroom, which was then become my office. So there's always these challenges that come to us, and we could either curl up into a little ball and say, I can't do this, I don't want to do this anymore. Or we stand up straight and we just say, right, this sucks. We get dealt a hand and we got to deal with it. And that's, for me personally, dealing with it is the best way of overcoming it. Whether there's no right or wrong, you just got to go for it and see how we come out the other end. And I think that's for me, is the most important part, is dealing with it. So there's lots of challenges to answer your question, but it's a daily.
What length have you uniform laid that top then?
So we've got probably around about 3.5, 4 inches worth of hair there.
Is that about half a comb length?
Half a comb, yeah. About half a comb there. We can see it comes up to here. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to get a razor into it. If we go too short, you can't really feather away with the razor. You end up taking a little bit too much off. You need a bit of hair to play with and get into. But I love texture. I love movement. I love anything that just gets the hair looking and feeling a little bit more, not so safe. I think that's the answer I'm trying to get. I wanted something a little bit more edgy, a little bit more custom, and a little bit more personalized for the client. Now I'm just going around the hair. I'm taking out my pins. I'm going to drop this hair that I haven't cut yet. Okay. And this is where it's changed shape. So we can see at the moment, we've got this lovely shape, rounded shape around the head. I'm going to take this hair and we're going to undo it a little bit. And all of a sudden, we've got a new dynamic going on within the haircut. And we're just going to unroll it. So I'm just going to move that around so we can see. We've got this lovely shaggy texture on top there. We've also got this lovely tendrils of hair falling around the head, all the way around the sections that we pinned up out of the way, just so I could do that uniform layer up the top there. Now, this is where we start to get a little bit more fun and start to get a little bit more personalization for the haircut. I'm going to be using a razor. You've used a razor in the past, haven't you, Mike? You using a razor?
Yeah, I mean, what's something that you just spoke about really quickly was that that your end result, you're going to be using a razor on it.
Yeah.
So you automatically left it a little bit longer, knowing that the razors. And would that go for all types of texturizing? Would you say? So, for instance, if you know that you're really going to deep point cut a short haircut, would you automatically leave the haircut a little bit longer to start with to get the main shape in, or?
That's a good question, Mike. I mean, so when you've got longer hair, you can always take more off.
Yeah.
If you go super short, can't take so much off, right? So if we think about it, if we're going to be point cutting and not using a razor instead, so let's take a section through the top here. If I had super short hair and all I had was about this length of hair, I'd be finding it really difficult to start getting texture into it, okay? Because we've got longer hair, we've got more hair to work with, and we can go really sort of deep with the texturizing. That's going to allow us to create more texture and more movement within the hair. So I suppose having longer hair when you're trying to texturize is more forgiving because you can always take more off. But it gives, when using a razor, you need to be able to get the razor in behind you. So it's behind your fingers there. So I think it's going to be super important to leave a little bit of extra length when working with a razor, for sure. But again, it depends what you're looking to achieve. There could be something completely different out there, not yet discovered, with a razor that you could create on really, really short hair. So, okay, so I've got my razor. I've got one with a guard on today. I do use all different types of ones. Okay, so we've got a guarded razor at the moment, so I don't want to cut myself live on air. But I also do use an open razor blade, which I find if you do master it and you'll become a little bit more adept with it, you can tailor it a little bit more. You can use the corner of the razor, but when you use the guarded ones, you tend to find you have to use the the full length of the razor as you're texturizing, which doesn't really change up too much. It's just a lot more forgiving so you don't cut yourself when you're touching the blade. Now, I'm going to be going through the haircut. So if anyone's done like the long graduation at the end of the haircut, you go through it sort of section by section, you just take weight out of it. So I'm just going to be gently taking the weight away from the cut itself, because I want to get this a bit more textured on top here. So I'm going to take it a side section. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to tell you what, bring it out sideways so you can see there. I'm going to take a section, bring the hair out, because we've got the shape there. We're not going to disrupt the shape. The shape's still going to remain the same. We're just going to be taking some weight out of it. So we're going to take our blade, instead of just going in and gouging away, we're just going to turn it ever so slightly, almost so it's horizontal. And you just want to gently caress the hair with the blade, because these razors are super sharp. I get a new razor put into this razor every single time I cut a new head of hair, because the razor blades themselves inside here blunt off really quickly. So you just got to be really careful. You're not going too crazy and whopping off too much hair. So slowly, slowly, really controlled, softening, and this ends up shattering the ends of the hair so it's less bulky, just more texture. And I'm just working down through this haircut. Again, gently, gently. And we can see how much hair comes off just by gently taking that. It's quite a bit, all right? So you've just got to be really careful as you're doing it. Lovely. I'm going to work onto the other side now. Any other questions there, Mike?
Yep. What's the purpose of leaving those longer parts of the hair? Is it going to be like a mullet hairstyle?
Oh, surprise. Yes, so we've got so that's a really good question. So what's the point of leaving this out of the way? It's because I didn't want to cut it. Okay, I really wanted to be really clear what I wanted in the uniform layer and out of the uniform layer. So that's the reasons why I left these bits long. In a moment, I will be slowly but gently connecting this short length into this long length, which is going to give us a nice softness on the sides here, but with this short texture on top. So it's going to be a lovely, as you just mentioned, a textured mullet, absolutely. But it's just one way, you know, just one way of cutting this haircut. There's so many different variations. If I wanted to, I could make this all cropped super short around the sides and leaving that long texture through the top. So that's going to give me more of what you call your pixie cut. So it's such a versatile haircut. Just by doing the same thing and sectioning a few bits out of the way, you can create something completely different.
Being sort of slightly older, Liam, when we hear the word uniform layer, we automatically sort of think like a granny haircut or an older lady or more mature lady's haircut where she has it the same length all over, or even parts of a man's haircut as well as a uniform layer, even down to yours really, where it's short around the sides and back and then it's a uniform layer on the top.
You got it.
But a uniform layer doesn't have to be boring, does it? It doesn't have to be old-fashioned.
No, not at all. It's a lot, you know, I can think it can be one of the most flattering things is taking a hair shorter on a woman. It can be stunning, you know, really stunning. And you just approach it in your own unique way and you get it into create your own unique shapes within it. But with the uniform layer, it's what I can't stress enough. It's the discipline behind it. It's the body position, the finger angle. When you mastered that, you can then explore all the different finger angles that come along with it. And I think That's what you've got to keep in the back of your mind. So the question that came from a moment ago in regards to why did we leave these bits longer? It's because I've learned that full haircut before, and I know it inside out and back to front. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try something a little bit different today, and do a little bit more of a mullet. And that's just going to give us that. You can see the versatility of it a little bit more.
So if you're cutting a uniform layer and you're doing it, say 3 or 6 inches all over, would it be true to say then that the shape that you're going to get is the head shape?
Yeah, you're extending the head shape out from the head. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you think if the head shape is if you've got your spherical head shape,
yeah,
you're creating that head shape by extending it away from the head.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Generally, as a rule of thumb, we've all got quite unique head shapes, haven't we? I don't think there's 2 head shapes that's exactly the same, is there?
We've all got different size shapes, they're all beautiful in their own way. So yeah, absolutely, we've got different head shapes.
So doing the same haircut on somebody else, you're going to end up with a slightly different end result, aren't you? Very unique to that person's head shape.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. It's essentially you're extending that shape of the head, and you're just going to get different shapes for different people. But that's where when you understand what your finger angle is doing, is maybe you wanted to not say, for example, you've got a slightly bigger head shape and you want to slim that head shape down a little bit for you. You can change your finger angle so it's less, you're not following the shape of the head, but you're going a little bit more square, and you flatten off the sides. So again, that's the beautiful thing about the uniform layer. It's just learning the uniform itself and then tweaking it to tailor it for that individual. So that we may want to increase volume on top, or we might want to reduce volume on top. So, and by learning how to do that, that's absolutely key. That comes from the uniform layer. So I'm just going through here. I'm just going through with the razor, just really touching it on the hair, giving it a bit of life. Working through the back here. And on these longer tendrils, I'm going to get a little bit more aggressive. And this, again, can't stress enough, this is me tailoring the haircut to how I want it to feel. And this isn't necessarily what you have to do. This is what you do when you start tailoring it and doing your own thing, your own individual thing. So I'm just going through the haircut now, touching the hair with the razor. And it's starting to give it that texture and shape. Even through the front here, I've done a slight little fringe here, but really shattered it with the razor. So I was just grabbing pieces of hair and taking pieces off just to give it that bit more shattered, bit more unruly effect at the front. So I'm just going to go through these long side tendrils here. And as we bring this out, we can see the disconnection. Okay, so I'm going to bring this around so you guys can see. So I'm going to bring this out. You can see that disconnection where the hair drops off longer, and that's where the uniform layer is. Now, all I'm going to do, take that whole section out with my razor. If I went in heavy, I'd end up taking a lot of length off. Okay, I'm just going to bring the razor down onto the hair to take all of that off. Okay, so we take a nice chunk off there. And now we've got a connection from the sides, very soft, into the length. Bring this down a bit. There we go. And exactly the same on this side. I'm going to take that whole section. I've got my guide, which is at the top here. That's where I'm going to start bringing in the razor. And bring that down the hair itself to create that soft texture. Okay, so we're connecting that through now. Same section at the back. Take that whole section there, bring it out from the head, and bring that razor in where that uniform layer starts to connect the two together.
It's looking good, Liam.
Thank you, mate. And again, I think that's where, as you mentioned, Mike, the uniform layer is a little bit of a older generation haircut. It doesn't have to be. The shape itself could be perceived as older for an older generation, but when you start to tailor it, that's when it comes alive. Love it. See there, we've got our two pieces down at the sides. I'm going to take this a little bit shorter through the middle, just because I think it'll look good. Lovely. Awesome. So what I'm going to do now, Mike, if it's okay, you might want to pop me on mute. I'm going to put a little bit of sea salt spray through this for you guys and texturize this and just really get that little bit of earthy texture that we get from sea salt spray. So it's this one here. So it's Lee Stafford's sea salt spray. It's my favorite texturizer. And the reason for that essentially is it gives it a dry matte texture rather than any sort of greasy residue that some products can do. So just put a light spray of that through the top and sides. Lovely. And then I'm going to pop the hairdryer on, Mike, and I'm going to get that dried off for everyone.
No worries. I'll see how the noise is going. Good. Can you hear me, Liam? We have one question. We have one question. It's just come in from Amelia, and it says, "What country would you like to go to with your hairdressing?" I think, like we spoke about earlier, I think I'd probably travel absolutely anywhere with my scissors. It's just one of those crafts that allows you to have many opportunities. Whether it be through education or working on the ships or the cruise liners or in hotels all over the world. If you want to travel, you can travel, definitely. What I like about watching Liam work is that although he's almost just rough drying it off slightly, he's actually doing it with some finesse and some point. So he's almost using the hairdryer, pointing it in the direction that he wants the hair to go, lightly massaging the root area just to give him that little bit of root lift. What I've quite enjoyed about this live is actually just sitting back and watching Liam work. Any questions, please ask.
Last bit of resin.
Cool, no worries. Just a little question. Mike, how long have you been hairdressing for? Had my business for 25 years on the south coast of England, probably 30. How old am I now? 33 years I've been hairdressing now. Still absolutely love it. Liam, we have another little question coming in as well for you.
Lovely, go ahead.
What would you say is the hardest haircut?
Ooh, for me, the hardest haircut, and people might disagree with me, but is the one length above. It's the bob, because it's so perfect. And I think when something's so pristine, especially with the bob, any deviations within it can end up becoming, it's quite noticeable. So I think getting a discipline behind it and learning that precision within that bob is really difficult personally. Lovely. So I'm just finishing up here, Mike. I'm just finishing off a little tailoring. Again, we've just roughed it up. Got that lovely bit of texture going through here.
It just comes alive, doesn't it, Liam?
It does, yeah, and it's just having that texture. I'm leaving it a little bit, leaving a little bit of sea salt being a bit damp. I kind of like that sort of grungier effect to it at the moment.
Definitely.
It just gives it a really lovely shape. We can sort of see lovely movement and texture getting through the back here into the nape of the neck. And we've got those longer tendrils of hair going through, which I think is super, super cool.
What do you think, guys? How's it looking?
How we're doing, what we're thinking. What I'd love for you guys to do, and again, I think this would be really lovely, is to go back and when you are practicing your uniform layer, is to have a little look at the hair, head shape and everything and think, what could I do different? How could I liven this up? How could I make this my own? And that's what the key is. These recipes are just to give you that foundation of understanding of what you're doing. And it's up to you to make these haircuts yours and your own. There we are. I'm going to bring that down a bit so you can see the length. I can play with it all day long, Mike.
Yeah, looking good, Liam.
Thank you, buddy.
No worries.
There we are, guys. It's your uniform layer with disconnections, whether you want to call it a mullet, you can. Got some beautiful disconnections going through just to give it a bit of life and a bit of texture. And again, I'm probably going to carry on cutting this after we go off live, Mike. I'm kind of enjoying myself right now. Lovely. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Oh, lovely. Thank you, Paula. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Paula says Paula says fabulous. Bon says I love the style. I'm loving it as well, Liam.
We hopefully come over to Chichester soon in the near future. It'd be great to see you all soon.
That's great, Liam.
Lovely. Cheers, buddy. There we are.
No worries. Thank you very much indeed. It's amazing. Amazing to have you on, Liam. And thanks for watching, everybody. There he is, the lovely.
There he is.
There he is. Look at him saying goodbye as well. So we're going to say thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you soon.
Bye. See you later, guys. Take it easy.